Recording in progress.
Good morning, beautiful Dharma friends. How pleasant to see you. It is Thursday, the 7th of October, 2021. I am going to pretend all day today to be Robert Beatty again. I'll pull it off. I've done it for years, decades. And this is a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community. I'm going to co-host you, Mr. Jim. There you are, done. Stand shotgun just in case. So it's another dark morning. Amazing. Getting darker still. Shorter days. This is a living lineage of transmission from the time of the Buddha down through, not countless, it's only 120 or so generations, which in terms of human history is not long. But we have this through Lady Sayadaw U Ba Khin, Ruth Denison. And I have a poem this morning by Lynn Unger. It's called the Camas Lilies. Remember the little town of Camas on the Vancouver side of the river is named after these lilies. Consider the lilies of the field, the blue banks of Camas, opening into acres of sky along the road. Would the longing to lie down and be washed by that beauty abate if you knew their usefulness, how the natives ground their bulbs for flower, how the settlers' hogs uprooted them, grunting in gleeful oblivion as the flowers fell? And you, what of your rushed and useful life? Imagine setting it all down. Papers, plans, appointments, everything. Leaving only a note. Gone to the fields to be lovely. I'll be back when I'm through with blooming. Even now, unneeded and uneaten, the camas lilies gaze out above the grass. From their tender blue eyes, even in sleep your life will shine. Make no mistake. Of course, your work will always matter. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. I'm sure there's an allusion to the biblical consider the lilies of the field here. Consider the lilies of the field, the blue banks of Camas, opening into acres of sky along the road. Would the longing to lie down and be washed by that beauty abate if you knew their usefulness? How the natives ground their bulbs for flower, how the settlers' hogs uprooted them, grunting in gleeful oblivion as the flowers fell? And you, what of your rushed and useful life? Imagine settling it all down. Papers, plans, appointments, everything, leaving only a note. Gone to the fields to be lovely. Be back when I'm through with blooming. Even now, unneeded and uneaten, the camas lilies gaze out above the grass from their tender blue eyes. Even in sleep your life will shine. Make no mistake. Of course your work will always matter. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. And you? I'm realizing in the reading of this, in the being present with this, I've only so far been partly present with it. And you, what of your rushed and useful life? Imagine setting it all down, plans, papers, appointments, everything. Leaving only a note, gone to the fields to be lovely. I'll be back when I'm through blooming. Even now, unneeded and uneaten, the camas lilies gaze out above the grass from their tender blue eyes. Even in sleep your life will shine. Make no mistake. Of course your work will always matter. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. So what if we were to, right now, give up rushing anywhere? What if we were to just land here? Right here. What if there really is nothing except right here, right now? And what if we were to park ourselves here, park our bodies here like rocks? You know, one of those rocks you see in a pasture somewhere. Maybe it was dropped by a glacier back the last time they melted. You can only see the top of the rock, but there's a lot of it underground. That's why they left it there when they cleaned up the field for planting. Too big to move. So the body is a rock, the slowest moving aspect of our being. And we can remind ourselves of our great good fortune. Of sufficient health to be here There's food in the fridge. For most of us, there's probably relative safety, great safety in our neighborhoods. We have the Dharma. We have each other. We have a mind which is functioning adequately to actually get to our meditation spot. We remember who we are, so to speak. And so with gratitude, we can reaffirm our profound commitment to take refuge in being awake. And with this awakeness, to explore, to inhabit the present moment, the Dharma, the way things are. And to realize that we have friends on the journey. Refuge in the Sangha. In becoming lilies, or accepting that we are a body here, there's nothing to do except be aware. There are lots of meditation gymnastics we can do. Why not simply abide? It's an old term, isn't it? Abide. We can notice that each breath has a beginning. It has a rising to fullness. It has a decline and then a vanishing. We've heard these words 100 times. What if we were to go beneath them, before them, outside of them, and to just be present like a rock, breathing in and out. There may well be wanderings of the mind, but let's not make them a problem. In fact, let's not make anything a problem. When awakening occurs in the midst of a wandering mind, simply notice that. Maybe return to breathing. Or maybe just notice presence. Each breath comes out of nowhere, doesn't it? It truly doesn't exist, and then it has a beginning. We won't notice this if we're lost in the wandering mind. We won't notice this if we're caught up in liking and disliking. We won't notice if we're caught and identified with some storytelling the mind is doing. But then there is a moment when, oh right, this rock sitting here is breathing. Not only that, everywhere awareness awakens in the body, there's life. Life unfolding. There could, of course, be the energies of desire and wanting. This moment could be dissatisfying, could be unpleasant. There could be disliking. There could easily be restlessness and agitation. The important demands of our lives, saying to pay attention to them. There could be some old conversation, some feared conversation from today. There could be sloth and torpor, sleepy dullness. There could be doubt. There's so many options. But all of them, every single last one of them, can become an object of awareness. Not one of them is who we fundamentally are. Dropping into the reality of this moment, the reality of this breath, What if it's true that it's essential, safe to relax? What if that is, in fact, the royal road to awakening? What a relief that can be. And what if we were to remember I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am in this moment. What might that mean? I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am. It's been quite a long lifetime already. Years, decades. Please think back over your life. Think back over the longings, that deep longing to be loved that's been there since the moment of your birth. And what is it that every baby wants? They want to be known, to be loved, to be held, to be fed, to be protected. And what is it that every toddler wants? They want adventure and they want love and protection. And every teenager and every 20-something. And all the way into our lives of the present day. Why is it that we work so hard? Why is it that we hold our breath? Where are we rushing to? Isn't it always that we want to feel loved and safe? And somehow we get the notion that we have to correct ourselves. We have to improve ourselves to be worthy of being loved and safe. We have to try hard. We have to get rid of this flaw or that flaw. We have to be pleasing to other people. Maybe we have to be the super caregiver or the super achiever. And maybe we've fallen into a sense of failure and depression. Sometimes we even believe that we cause our own sickness. So what if instead of that, in this moment, in a radical break from the past, since the past exists only as a class of thoughts, what if we were to say something like, I love you with your name at the end. I love you with your beautiful name. And what if included in that is, I love you exactly as you are right now. I aspire to love and accept myself exactly as I am now. And we can notice what kind of responses the mind has to this kind of a open-hearted loving. I love you, and don't forget your name at the end. And who knows what words would be even better for you. You can use your auto-translator to say whatever you want or need to hear. And this could be your voice rather than, quote, my voice. Could be a woman's voice, a man's voice. Could be the voice of the Buddha. Could be the voice of a parent. And what if with I love you, you relaxed even further into this moment? I love you, with your name at the end. And similarly, if we were to think back over our lifetime, there's been a lot of pain. There's also been pleasure. But there's something that we contract about around the pain. Somehow or another, we think we shouldn't have it, or we're doing something wrong because there's pain. Human bodies hurt from the moment they're born. Human life is so utterly unstable that there's lots of loss. I came to believe that the reason that we got pets for the children was so they could experience relatively bite-sized losses and learn how to grieve. So remembering, with the greatest of kindness, one or two of your losses, the pains of your life. Not the biggest one, but one that's bite-sized. And rather than turning away and tensing up and distracting and trying to be more productive, what if we softened and realized, there's been lots of hurting. To this day, there's lots of hurting. And it's my intention to hold myself in sweet, gentle compassion. And compassion isn't some erudite concept that's far away. When you see a child fall and skin their knee badly, you sit down with them. You surround them with your love. You acknowledge it really hurts, doesn't it? And don't worry, I'm right here. And so in this moment, with the pains of today, with the anxieties of today, with the fears of today. How is it that you hold yourself in sweet compassion? It's a kind of intention. I intend to not deny the fatigue, the loneliness, the sequelae of being sick. I intend to hold myself in sweet compassion. And doing this, of course, is then the doorway to the world where our loved ones are hurting. And while we can't fix it for them, can't save anybody, we can be present in compassion. Sitting with an in-breath and an out-breath in love and compassion for a loved one. Yeah. And we could simplify it on the in-breath, may all beings be free from suffering. On the in-breath, perhaps, may I be free from suffering. And the out-breath, may all beings be free from suffering. May I be awake, may all beings be awake. And now, soon we will be heading off into our day, the day of activity rooted in this inactivity, in this spaciousness. Let's remember our intention to be mindful, to be kind. And when we discover others who are acting unskillfully, to remember that they act unskillfully out of greed, hatred, and ignorance. And so it's possible to extend compassion even as we take care of our own boundaries. Sounds. And you, what of your rushed and useful life? Imagine setting it all down. Papers, plans, appointments, everything. Leaving only a note. I've gone to the fields to be lovely. I'll be back when I'm through with blooming. So, my friends, is there something for you to say, to share?
Robert, it's Pamela.
Hello.
Hi there.
Are you completely over COVID?
I think so. I have most of my energy back. I occasionally have lost words that seem to show up if I'm patient. But yeah, I think so.
Thank you. Yay.
Yeah. That was a lovely poem for me today. I feel like right now I'm off in the fields, attempting to bloom again. I've had a really, really rough couple of weeks. About 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago, my oldest niece, called me and said that she texted me to say that her husband had killed himself. And it turned out that he had hung himself in a closet in the house so that she was the one that found him.
Oh, dear.
And so I actually dropped absolutely everything and flew down to be with her for a week. As she tried to collect herself. And so that was a really tough. And she doesn't have much of a spiritual guidepost of any sort that sort of helps a little bit with context. And it was very unexpected, and there was no note. And the whole family's still reeling, of course. And then I got back on Friday because Kevin and I were to travel to Mexico for 2 weeks. And he told me on Saturday that he wasn't going. And so I said, well, I am. So I'm here in Mexico right now for 2 weeks. And I'm actually my shoulders are coming down from around my ears a little bit. And, but it's just been an intense, hard, overwhelming couple of weeks to the point where I'm pretty resilient, and I could not handle any criticism. I couldn't handle any more foul balls. I couldn't. It's just been what do they say? A learning experience about me. And so this morning was the first time I was able to sort of pull it together to come back to Sangha, because it's just been so chaotic. And of course I'm 2 hours ahead of you. So, and I just had to come back because there's just something about Sangha that feels like a refuge. So that's where I am. So thank you for that poem. It was really helpful.
That's a lot to adapt to.
Yeah.
And that's probably just part of it, would be my guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel pretty raw, so that
Mm.
if I touch my heart at all, if I touch my feelings at all, what I get are tears, and that's fine. I'm not disturbed by that, but I'm just noticing that
Mhm.
as my primary response right now.
Yeah. Well, you will know the pace at which to open to that.
Yeah.
It's one of the great gifts, I guess, of being a meditator over time is that we learn how to open the door to those hurt places and we learn how to close the door.
Mhm.
Concentration is the primary tool for closing the door. If you're really paying attention to the breath or to your musical instrument or whatever it is, those deep feelings are not going to be bubbling up. And if you stop and sit down and get centered and turn toward them and say, "Oh, where's that lump in my throat, heart, wherever?" Oh, there it is, and then we can titrate the dose. We can let in. I mean, to some degree, sometimes we get bowled over, of course. So wonderful that you have those skills.
I'm grateful for them.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm curious, where in Mexico are you?
Oh, I'm in San Miguel de Allende.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I
I've got.
have friends here, and
Yeah.
they one of them arranged for a hotel for me. We were gonna stay with her, but that didn't work out. So she arranged a hotel, and it's really a lovely hotel with a pool and 3 meals a day, and I can stay here if I want, or I can wander all over the city if I want. And
Mm.
right, I've only been here 2 nights now, so I'm still adjusting to the
Mm.
um, altitude. So I'm not pushing to be
How
too active yet.
how high is it?
7,600
Uh-huh.
and something.
Okay. That's a bit.
Yeah. And I am a lowlander. I have always lived
Mm.
close to the sea. So it takes me a while to get adjusted.
Thanks. Glad you're here.
Thank you. I am too.
That image of finding one's spouse in a closet, it's pretty heavy. I mean, what do you do with that? I hope she's going to get some good support, like
I
psychological,
think
emotional.
she called her doctor because she wasn't sleeping, and she got a little bit of temporary assistance with getting to sleep. Um, it was taking her into places that weren't helpful,
Yeah.
and the doctor has in his or her office um, uh, a counselors and
Mm-hmm.
such, and she really likes her doctor and trusts her, so she's going to get tied in with that.
Mm.
I'm really glad. Yeah, that image is what, she saw other pictures, but the image she still had in her head, in front of her the whole time, was the image of him hanging in the closet. And the EMTs asked her to cut him down so that perhaps she could revive him. And she tried, and he was much bigger than her. And so she has that as well. So one of her sons lives in Austin and will come and visit pretty often. And
so now we are now the beneficiaries of that imagination, and any resonance with, there could well be people in our group who've experienced suicide in one way or another. And so now we have the question of, well, what do we do with it?
Mm-hmm.
What do we do? And one thing to do is the casual glance, oh yeah, there's that, and then distraction, suppression. It's like, okay, not going to go there. I have things to do today. Another possibility is to pause long enough to notice one's reactivity, to notice where the tension is. And then there's a conjuring up of compassion one can do, which is, imagine that young woman having that experience. That will change her life. May she get the support she needs. May she be. So we can change. There's a variety of ways we can change the channel. We don't have to be simply at the effect of this image. We're really quite allowed and encouraged, I would say, to make use of it in the way that we can. And there's also the practice of equanimity, which is something really worthy of developing, which is the practice of realizing, oh yes, there's that, and there could be compassion for that young person. And there's a way that it isn't my business. And so we don't have to open up into and inhale every tragic thought, image that comes to mind. So we have lots of what's the word? Opportunities to act, to think, to work with it internally. And it could be that it sets off something that means, gosh, that means I guess I need to spend this morning going for a long walk among the camas lilies. Right? Because this one got me.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, Robert and Sangha. I wasn't going to share this today, but in the spirit of what you talked about, I had a really lovely, I don't know, maybe half hour yesterday that was so meaningful. So hard for me not to do backstory because as a novelist, if you don't do the backstory, you don't get all the stuff, but I'm going to force myself not to. I was coming from Beaverton after a very long bus ride before that, and I decided to take the bus rather than the train intentionally so that I could come down Cornell, if any of you know it, on the 20 bus, because you go through all the nature, if you're on the right side, coming into town. And for those of you who don't take buses, there's also a level where you can step up, so you actually have almost like the equivalent of a train seat. And the bus was really empty, pretty empty, and I was sitting there, and the most wonderful thing happened. I hit traffic coming down Burnside. The bus hit traffic. And that allowed me to just look out. And even when I had my car, for about 20 minutes, look at all the rock formation that I didn't know was there, look at the individual plants. It was so quietly joyous because I really can't get to nature easily, or just to the park and where it's safe for me. And I lost sense of time, so I can't tell you if it was 20 minutes, but it just was enough. And it left me, and now I know that all I have to do when I desperately need that, regardless of the weather, is take the train to Beaverton and take the 20 bus. So my whole purview of how I should be in nature was changed. And what I love is that I love the whole thing. Before that, I had been on a bus for over 45 minutes from Tigard after spending hours. Anyway, it was a dental thing where I had to go, but no pain. It wasn't that kind of visit. And but something in me said, no, no, no. And I was hungry and it was late. I said, no, get on the bus. But I never expected that. So that's my share. And that's when you were saying to try to, that we could go someplace. I decided, well, yes, maybe I should share that.
Thank you,
so
Eileen.
Thank you.
Please expect a check from TriMet in appreciation for your endorsement.
The other thing that happened is I have not been writing this whole block, but when I was thinking about all the backstory I left out, I thought, oh, this is a short story or this is an essay, because it would be so enriched with all the backstory. It really would. So that's another thing. I need to sit down and write this. Thank you.
Janet, I see you speaking, but I don't hear you. Do others hear Janet? No. Still don't hear you. Oh, there now, something.
Good morning, Sangha, and good morning, Robert.
Hello, Allison.
Can you hear me?
We'll come back to you, Janet. Yes, I do, Allison. I couldn't hear Janet, though. Hi.
Hi. I had to step outside. We live in a loft where you can hear everything. My son, who has been in the hospital for a week with a traumatic injury, he lost his hand, is home. We brought him here last night or yesterday afternoon. And I'm so grateful for my practice. It's been a rough night. It's a lot of anxiety for him right now. Reality is settling in. And he just said, stay with me. And I did. And I just laid next to him in the bed practically all night and had my hand on him and just know he knew I was there. And we spent some time before that breathing in and out. And then we were talking about the meaning of life and Viktor Frankl and where is that? And I started remembering things that I'd learned by coming to PIMC and being here. And it was more about that we become good at, how do we become good ancestors? What do we do in, what means something to me? What means something to other people? And then I just started meditating out loud with him and breathing and talking about how to remember who we are and how do I remember who I am and what is that, the good and the bad, the not judgment, the judgment. So many of the things that I just heard you talk about in our meditation. I'm so grateful for that. It's reaffirming, and it was for my son. He just said, I like that. Yes, I like that. That rings true. And we go through our, the object is the path. We go through our suffering so that we become more of who we are if we choose to. And then, he said, I choose that. And it was like in the midst of his anxiety and physical suffering, he was like open and ready and wanting to understand what it's like to let go and letting go. And in the letting go, remembering who he is and about resilience and about love and connection with others. We talked about the connection of the fungi under the surface of the earth and how it spreads. And there's communication, a connection with other living things and beings. So I'm so grateful for those kinds of moments with my son. And I'm now grateful that I can hear him softly snoring in the other room. He finally fell asleep. Mm. So that's my journey today. And I'm really glad I tuned in so I could hear and be reminded and also share with you.
Thank you, Allison. How wonderful he has you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Janet, you want to try again?
Okay, I will try again.
It's working.
Oh, good. Okay, well, do I need to turn the volume down a bit because I have it very high?
It's fine.
Okay. Allison and Pamela, these are really, really hard journeys. Very hard, but you have so much support and love coming your way from me and everybody else. And Pamela, when you get acclimated in San Miguel, there's a beautiful botanical garden up in the hills right above San Miguel, very short taxi ride. And your friends probably know about it and might like to go with you. So I hope you can do that because that is a really lovely place. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Janet. Well, Anybody sitting with something that'd be important to share? I need to head out fairly soon. I'm actually having a morning with my grandson. It's been a long time. Dare we open our hearts? Dare we actually care about people? I'm not sure why. Doesn't need to be a why, but I think I'd like to end this morning in a different way. And that would be simply to play 3 gongs and then end in silence. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. Goodbye, dear friends. See you soon. Goodbye, Facebook friends.